So I don't usually think of myself as a well-spoken bloke, but if I was to put an analogy on AEW Collision, I thought of this earlier. AEW Collision is the Lancia Coupe from the Top Gear Botswana special. Jeremy Clarkson's Lancia Coupe, in that it started off, it was all flashy, it was all fast, and it's having to deal with all this shit. You've got parts coming off it, it's been taken apart to get across the sand dune, so it barely looks like what it originally set out to be. But you take away all those aspects and just the pure fire and pure drive of the show, it's something really special. So yeah, take it here. Collision is a Lancia Coupe. Hello and welcome to FTTR, I am Hugh McQuaid, and today we're talking about AEW Collision, and in particular why Collision has now become must-see TV. In a world of, in an abundance, in a landscape of pro wrestling shows, New Japan, WWE, AEW, TNA, Indies, they are everywhere. Collision has managed to solidify itself, particularly with this latest episode, as must-watch TV for me. Now, to talk about that, we need to dive into a little bit the history of Collision, some of the stuff that happened when it originated. But before we do that, please subscribe, please like this video, please comment your thoughts down below, and I'll try and reply to every single one of them as we dive into this. So Collision, if you are unaware, started out as a weird sideshow. Well, it was a double-edged sword. So you had a new show. They've obviously got money from WBD to commission a new show, so we're going to get 2 AEW shows, and we've got Collision, which is the CM Punk show. It is to separate him from the Elite. All the talent that's not being used on Dynamite, they're going to be on Collision, like Miro, Malachi Black, FTR, Punk, Ricky Starks. It was all sort of CM Punk's baby, and sort of just the people that he wanted on the show were going to be on the show. When CM Punk left, or was fired, however you want to put it, he was fired. There's no beating around the bush for that, so I don't know why I said that. It became a little bit run-of-the-mill. There were no big story beats. There were no big sort of angles or anything on Collision. It was just great wrestling. And if you want great wrestling out of your pro wrestling product, then Collision was the show for you. You had great matches throughout Collision's history. My favourite probably is the FTR versus Bullet Club Gold match. I thought that was absolutely sensational. An incredible TV match. And I think, was Kenny Omega versus MJF on Collision? If it was, I'm going to put the match graphic over my face, but I think it was. You had just great matches, but you never had much story. It never became must-watch TV. You were always like, oh, that's an interesting match, I'll check that out, because a lot of the big angles and big segments happened on Dynamite. But in recent months, I would say probably from Grand Slam Australia and the build towards Revolution, Collision has been making a comeback. They have been making strides in putting big angles on the show and not being scared that people don't see them, because I think that was the initial fear of putting big angles on Collision, is that the viewership is lower than Dynamite, therefore we're not going to put big stuff on the show because people might not see it, our general audience might not see it. But then how do you get people to tune in if you're not doing big things on the show? They've turned that corner. They've started doing big things on the show, whether it be great matches, and when I mean great matches, or whether it be angles. The angle that sticks out to me the most is the return of Timeless Tony Storm, which took place on a Collision. So, bolstering the secondary show with angles like this has led us to where we are now, which is one of the coolest episodes of Collision I can remember in a while, with the highlight being the FTR promo. So the FTR promo, they turned heel on Adam Copeland, and they had their big speech about why they turned heel, why they did this to Adam Copeland, and it was something that was furthering their characters, furthering their stories. At the same time, it's a big angle, it's a big promo, it's not a wrestling match, and it fit. It added to Collision's tone. You had the great stuff with Tony Schiavone afterwards. Nigel McGuinness standing up is one of the coolest things I've seen on Collision, or AEW, all year. I'm teasing FTR versus Nigel McGuinness. Holy shit. That was awesome. That was really, really awesome. Then you've got Jamie Hayter versus Billy Starks. You've got Athena versus Harley Cameron. You've slowly got some of the best women's matches in the US taking place on Collision. And I think that's a really cool thing to do. Everyone, it is a valid complaint to complain about AEW that they don't give their women enough shine. But here in the Owen, they're getting time. They're getting to do more stuff. The Athena versus Mercedes Moné feud has been really well built. That's coming very soon, next week on Spring Breakthrough. So building out your women's division and using Collision to do that is really good. Building out tag matches, really good. It gives you space to do the matches and do the angles, but also they're making it feel special. So if you think about it, Collision has pretty much everything you want from pro wrestling. It has the great matches, and now it has the great segments. It is confined a perfect weekly wrestling show. The only thing missing from it is that sometimes you don't get the big stars that maybe you're expecting. You don't get Kenny Omega every week. You don't get Jon Moxley every week, although I think he's been showing up pretty consistently on Collision, Jon Moxley. You don't get MJF, the Hurt Business and all that. So I think they've cracked the formula. I really think they've cracked the formula with Collision. It is slowly becoming my most anticipated weekly show because I always know I'm going to sit there and watch it with a smile on my face. Watching Dynamite can sometimes be a bit of a drag. Watching WWE can sometimes be a bit of a drag. But when you sit down to watch Collision, you always know you're going to be in for a quality show. Even if that quality show is 4 out of 5. Maybe it's not 5 out of 5. But I think they have just been delivering consistently on Collision, and it's turned into must-watch TV. It is something that I would genuinely recommend. As someone who talks about this on YouTube, I would highly recommend checking out an episode of Collision, particularly this one just gone. I would say use this as your starting point to jump on watching Collision, and from there, hopefully you will be, I think they're colliders. Let's collide. You'll be a collider. Yeah. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome that Collision's doing really well. It is one of the most underrated shows in pro wrestling at the moment, and I highly think you should check it out. It is something that I'm fascinated by. Ever since it was created, the impetus of trying to do a brand split, separating CM Punk out from the Elite, is so interesting to me, and to see what it's become now, which is the best show that AEW puts out, is awesome. It's such a cool turnaround, and it's something that I'd highly recommend you check out if you're into professional wrestling. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you a collider? Are you a fan? Let me know, and I'll try to reply to every single one of them. Thank you all ever so much for your support, and have a nice day.